I'll say
Really,
it again. It's really nice to meet you.
it's really so good. It really is. I always had a good feeling about Little Apple Theater.
Uh,
I always felt like that was such a good production that you guys gave it.
Thank you. And I was just after 24 years, I was amazed that you still remembered me
Oh my
and
God, yes.
that
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
had
yeah.
done the play.
And then you remembered me.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting. So the Very Little Theater, of course, is shut down. So one
Hmm.
of the members, we are a real community theater. I mean, very community theater, which is great. Um, and one of the members decided to try to do virtual little theater and put out a call for, what kind of, does anybody have any projects they'd like to do? And I'm thinking and I'm thinking, and I'm not coming up with anything. I know I want it to be kind of short and I want it to be two or three people at the most. And at the very same time, I'm opening this old box of Little Apple production stuff and going through my old programs to see what I can recycle. What do I want to keep one or two copies of? And I came across a notice, a little flyer that I made for the Scent of Tulips. And I thought, oh, this would be perfect. And then I tried to find who represents it now. How do I get the rights? And
Yeah.
I didn't
Because
find
I
it.
don't know that Alamo Square Press is
What?
still,
No,
I,
whoever it
I think
was
they're
that.
still in business, but I don't know.
Yeah. So then I Googled you, and I found an old WordPress website that had your email address, and I thought, well, what do I have to lose?
It's
And
great.
you responded right away, and I was so glad, so
Yeah.
glad. So
Yeah.
what was it like revisiting the Scent of Tulips after all
You
these?
know, I still love that play.
Yeah.
I have to say, of all of the plays that I wrote, I feel like this one, it's just about love.
Hmm.
It's really just about love. And um and I still love it. And so it was wonderful to come back to it. I mean, I probably haven't read it in 24 years, except that I have, I've opened the book, I've gotten copies, I've taken them to conferences and kind of
Oh,
peddled them wherever I can. But yeah, it's actually been really wonderful.
and what inspired you to write it in the first place?
Um,
Do you even
at
remember?
the time I was breaking up with my girlfriend,
Oh.
at that time 17 years,
Hmm.
and her family, and she says I was trying to kill her off. That was her take on this play, which may be true. I think I was trying to articulate what my dreams had been
Oh.
about growing old with somebody.
Hmm.
I felt like my heart was breaking, and the marriage, Donna says I like being married. I just like it. And I liked being married,
Hmm.
and I liked raising children, and I liked all of I mean, I didn't like all of the headache and heartache and
Hmm.
um, everything else that came with it, but I liked being part of a family.
Hmm.
So I think it was that, but I at the same time I was always knocking on the door to get into the family,
Oh.
because they were family. They were the mother and the kids, and so I was never part of it.
Hmm.
Um, so I think it was really a reflection of that as well, of kind of feeling second class.
Hmm. Well, Donna says it so well, around I'll call the boys. They didn't they like me now, but in the
Right.
few years,
All those first 7 years.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So when you and I started talking about doing this play again, um we noticed, of course, that 1994 was pre-marriage equality, and
Mhm.
I sent you a question of whether or not you wanted to update it to present day and rewrite some of that, and you chose not to. Can you talk about why you chose not to? I think it was a really good choice. And why did you want to leave it in 1994?
I think because I think because the sense the whole conversation about being buried together,
Mhm.
and the whole conversation about being a second class relationship, and who we were married to in the eyes of God, and who we are not married to, that felt so important to kind of reflect on. And I think, I mean, I'm grateful every day for marriage being legal. I don't think in 1994 I could have ever imagined that
Yeah.
we would have been able to get married, and so it was kind of just assumed that it was off the table. But that sense that isn't it just as important to
Mhm.
you? Isn't it still equal in our eyes? What you
Right.
had with Theo, what I had with Walter, what I have with you. And there's some of that with Donna is kind of begging to be loved,
Mm.
which I could certainly relate to. Um, but some of that of what it is that she's saying, of just desperately wanting to be acknowledged, and to have the same rights, the same vision, be on the same ship, be yeah.
And it feels really important as we were working on the play, um, to just remember the struggle. You know,
Mm-hmm.
10 years from now, when people look back, um, remembering the struggle, remembering that there was a time that we just didn't think it would ever happen in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that you left it there. One of the things that it reminded me is that when playwrights write plays and they write the time and they put present, that's only relevant for the moment.
Right. It's true. It's really true.
Yeah,
Yes, thank you
yeah,
for that. Yeah.
yeah.
Right, because it's happening right now, so it's happening in the present. But of course, 10 years from now, somebody may want to do the play,
Uh-huh. Right.
and we've moved on,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Well, Sharon and Nancy, who did the play for when I directed it 24 years
Hmm.
ago, were thrilled to get the email from me that they would get to revisit Cynthia and Donna.
They're
And
wonderful.
aren't they wonderful? And
They are so wonderful. Yeah.
they are two very close friends. They've known each other for a little bit longer than I've known the two of them, and I've known the two of them for 30 years. And
Wow.
And of course, when they did it 24 years ago, they were in their 40s and now they're in their 60s. And if we do it
Yeah.
again 20 years from now, they'll be the right age. And they were just thrilled to revisit it. And the rehearsal process was just so sweet. It was our first time doing any kind of a Zoom rehearsal. This was our first time, my first time ever trying that. And I found that, in this process, it was really hard to unpack the play as well as when you're in person. Um, but they remembered it. I remembered it. It was just so sweet to
Hmm.
read it.
You
Um,
know, the movements that they have are subtle and
mhm.
and strong, and it is so interesting with Zoom in some ways, how little you need
Right.
for movement to be able to kind of bring it across.
Mhm.
And I feel it in their bodies, and
Right.
so that's a good thing. The other thing that I love is that you put up the set
Uh-huh.
design. in while you're reading the stage directions for that, because I look at them and I know just where I am.
Uh-huh. It was an idea I had because my friend Daryl Marzik, who is a set designer, costume designer, actor, singer, he is a Renaissance man. He and I went to college together in Florida at the University of South Florida. Been friends all these years. He now lives in Eugene and is part of the Very Little Theater. And he is also down for the count because of we're closed. And I thought, okay, so how can I involve somebody else? And so I sent him that section, that description of the play, and I said, can you do me a rendering of the script, I mean, of the set, so that I can have that up there so that the audience gets to visualize it a little bit more.
It's wonderful because I then see them and I know just where I am.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I'm very proud of this.
It's a wonderful play, and I'm really hoping that more and more companies are needing to do things on Zoom, and the Scent of Tulips is a perfect vehicle. It's a perfect play for on Zoom. And after I watched it again, I thought, Very Little Theater has a couple of octogenarians. Is that the right way to say it?
That is.
Who can't get to rehearsals much anymore. I don't know if they would have the technology at home to do Zoom, but there's a part of me that thinks, golly, I'd really like to see it in their 80s. I don't know that I could stage it with two women in their 80s because I'm afraid one of them would get hurt in the bed scene.
Right.
But on Zoom,
well, there still has to be a sex scene in there because they are lesbians after all.
There absolutely has to be. Well, Marty, I'm just so grateful again that you said yes to our trying this project on Zoom. It was our first one. As the person who's coordinating all the virtual little theaters, he says, just rip the Band-Aid off. Find a project, get in there and do it. Yeah. And this felt like the perfect piece for us. So
it is, and it's wonderful for Gay Pride for us to be able to kind of look back on our history, and especially as so many of us are getting older.
Right, and the stories are being lost, and so this archives the story, and I think that's great. Marty Kingsbury, playwright, The Scent of Tulips. I can't be more grateful for bringing this play to life and for giving us permission to do it during these very odd times that we now live in.
Don't we? All right. Thank you so much, Carol.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.